Hey, Tracy Lewis from Stuff and Things. I am working on organizing my Copics. I will admit, some of you know the story. I ended up in a really bad accident where my husband and I weren't hurt, but our trailer we live full-time in was destroyed. So that meant everything was destroyed. We did have a few things in the truck, which was fortunate, and a couple of things were recovered, but pretty much it was all gone, which meant my Copic collection was gone. Blends didn't exist. They came into being a month after that accident, so I did put together a replacement Copic subset. I owned every marker, and I had owned every marker and then some. I had some super fine nibs in the originals. That little case was recovered, which was nice, so I didn't have to rebuild that. So the second Copic set that I rebuilt, unfortunately, took a back seat to the blends. I was much more excited about the new blends that came out, and so I wanted to share some of the things I have done to organize the blends. And now that I've finally made myself go back to the Copics and get those logged and organized, I am now doing what I'd like to call the blends meet Copics. So now that I have enough of the blends colors, I am starting to want my blending to go deeper. I don't, light and dark, two colors, doesn't quite go far enough to the light, and in many cases far enough to the dark. Most of the time it doesn't go far enough to the light for me. So I'm working on having a reference to make it easier and quicker for me to pull out a Copic or two to get that lighter range of color, because I really want that full depth on my images. And they're small images, so I would say at the most you ever need to go 4 deep. Whereas when I'm doing like an 8.5 by 11 full sheet coloring page, I might have to go 8, 10, or 12 if I'm doing like a total full spectrum on a dragon or something. So this is my worksheet that I have of purely the blends colors. I'm going to leave it like this. I am not going to go, I've left the top halves of them alone because, like I said, in most cases I want to go lighter. Technically, the soft sea foam here is one of the few colors that I don't need to go any lighter. I already see a really good marriage of the mint macaron, which I actually will show you today, as being on the bottom half of this. So I'm leaving these pure. I have penciled in my references to colors that I think I would like to use. My preference is to pick a blends color. For instance, here's Mossy Meadow, and I see right below it dark olive. So you can see that perhaps I can stack the old olive dark and light right above the Mossy Meadow and get a nice blend going into the lighter color ranges of that khaki color. The other thing interesting is Pool Party and Shaded Spruce. They are very close, but if you look carefully, Pool Party has a bluish tint to it and Shaded Spruce has a greenish tint to it. So they definitely have their place, but they are very close. Likewise, down here in the reds, I'm intrigued to notice that Cajun Craze light, perhaps I don't have a correct light, I'm not sure, because they are so close. I barely see any difference here. I also will say the Real Red and the Poppy Parade are very, very close, though to my eye in person, I do see that the Poppy Parade is a little more orange and the Real Red is what I would consider a real red. But the dark to the light isn't really a big visual change. Along with these really intense purples, I've noticed some bleeding. So something to be aware of as you get to know your blends and you use them, learn the bleeding. Certain colors will bleed, certain colors won't. Cajun Craze is a dark color. There is 0 bleeding here. None of the yellows bleed. Even the Mossy Meadow up here does not bleed. So there's certain colors that have a property about them that for whatever reason bleeds, and you'll find it in Copics and in blends. So you just learn your colors. Lovely Lipstick bleeds. These dark, the Rich Razzleberry and the Blackberry Bliss bleed. So I love my sheet here, and I'm going to leave this as is. Let's move on to my browns, blacks, and the dark blues. Well, blues actually, because the blues aren't in the other sheet. So Petal Pink got a little lost. I ran out of room here. Notice it's all filled in, and there just wasn't room to put Petal Pink. I would have liked it right after Flirty Flamingo, as you can see, but it's on a different page. And we'll talk a little bit about my thoughts with the pinks. The black doesn't have a difference to the light and the dark, but notice there's no bleeding on the black, but Smoky Slate bleeds. So, like I said, just get to know. Soft suede bleeds terribly, and it might be that my pens, I've noticed for the soft suede, they're really, really juicy wet. So keep that in mind. So I'm hoping to be able to flesh out, maybe by the end of this year, when the new catalog comes out, we'll end up with a full set of all of the colors. Now I'm going to now show you my Copic collection, which is really interesting because the colors I picked, if you can see here, I picked mostly bright, vibrant colors for the types of projects that I work on. And I actually did build these as blends. So pretty much, if you look at Y11 through 15, it's a blend. YR 4, 7, and 9, they're a blend. So I purposefully picked out the reds I've talked about before. In order to get a true range of red, you have to start in the light salmony pink and then go into the red. I do have some of the darker colors here, like the distressing colors, and then the deeper gray violets. I also have a lot of browns. I like to do animals, people. So I also do steampunk, which requires metals, and I have collected enough to do the various metals. What I did not do this time around is, if you'll look over here in the grays, I do not own all of the grays. I picked 3 of the grays to work with and just skipped the toner color of grays. I also always tend to go every other color on my steps for the shading. And the reason why I've ended up with some extra neutrals is my very first purchase for the Copic markers was from eBay. I bought a fairly large collection. They were from a crafter, and I made an offer and it was accepted. So there are certain things that I would not have bought had I been starting my selection from the very beginning from scratch. But I thought, since this set was available, it was an auction, it was just about to end. I made an offer right when it ended, and it was accepted like in the last few seconds. So that's why in that particular one, I believe that I did end up with the N4, 5, and 6 or something in there based on that set. Oh, the other collection that I really enjoy a lot are these vibrant colors. They're called the Fluorescents, and I, of course, had to get all of those again. So these are the colors I'm working with. All I know is that I have 272 pen cases, so that would be 144, and there are a couple of slots free. So I think I have 142. And then I do own every blend, and they are in a 36 case. It's a Copic case that has 36 slots, and it has 7 slots free. And that's it. And then I'm out of room. So I'm going to have to rethink my Copic, or not my Copic, my blends, because I'm probably not going to buy. I just purchased a last chunk to do 2 last metals in my steampunk color scheme of copper, aged copper, well, 3 colors. Gold, copper, and aged copper. I needed just a few more of the browns to flesh those out, and a few more yellows. So now what I want to do is share with you my Blends Meet Copics worksheet that I am playing with. I've done a little bit of work and thought it would be fun to share with you guys my work that I'm doing. I hope you can see I've tried to make my camera closer, trying to keep this out of the way, but so that I can see it. So hopefully, I'm left-handed, so that's why this is at an angle. And let's talk about some of the blends I've worked on. What I do is this middle section. Oh, and if we want to talk about the blending blanks that you can get, there's a whole bunch of blanks on Pinterest. These are just called blending sheets, if you want to call them that. And I purchased from a particular coloring book artist. He made a book full of these different shading. There's people, butterflies, leaves, trees, eyeballs, round, square, heart, everything you can imagine. This is the most neutral shape that he had, and I built this. I bought the book. I will put the book in my list of supplies. It's on Amazon, and when you buy it, you just ask for the electronic version. With the electronic version, I built this in Word just by taking a page, pasting it in, shrinking it down, and doing it 4-up. I would like to put this in a binder, a spiral binder at some point where I break it down. But for now, it's going to be in the full sheets. And I've been playing, as you can see, with these little squares with the blends. The first blend that I did do, I had talked about already, which is light and dark Old Olive to light and dark Mossy Meadow, and this is what the full range looks like. Then in the middle here, I practiced with Granny Apple Green, is actually here, and I blended it with a range of what's called the yellow greens in Copics, and I didn't like, that's why I like to play here with the middle, these little rectangles. I didn't like YG13, so that the lines on either side are telling me not good. And I will build a formal rectangle here with YG0103 and the light and dark Granny Apple Green. We'll do that today. I played with combining the light and dark pool parties with the Bermuda Bay, and I'm happy with that, very happy with that. Pool party itself, I wanted to be able to go lighter, so I have a set here where I'm going from BG000 to BG10 and 11. If you owned different colors or of Copics, or you owned all of them, you know, your variations are different than mine. I'm of course working with my subset of Copics, and like I said, I hope to eventually fill in the gaps with the new different blends that will come out. I played with the Daffodil Delight and Mango Melody, and then I took Pineapple Punch and made it lighter with Y00 and Y11 and liked that really well. I have not written it in the middle as one that I'm going to do, but I will use that one. Here's the light and dark soft seafoam, a light and dark MM over here, mint macaron. I liked that blend as well. So these side ones are practice ones, and then I'm taking my blends that I like and I'm building my references so that when I'm doing a project and I want to go deeper, lighter, or darker, I can just refer to this sheet. So that is what I am working on right now. We'll do just a few, and then I will get this video posted for everyone. When I'm all done, I will probably post just the final reference sheets, and we'll put them up on a blog entry and then on Pinterest for anybody who is interested. But like I said, this is all individualized because they're my particular Copic markers that I have. They're just to get you thinking of your different options. There's Spectrum Noir pens that some people might have, and so they'll end up making their own sheets. So soft seafoam and mint macaron, which is interesting because if you look at these two, you have to be careful when you look at the pen lids because they're not perfect in any way. I'm going to start at the bottom with the dark. I was using the fat tip. I was starting with the dark, adding in the light version for the bottom half, and then I'm going to go grab, uh-oh, did I mix them up somehow? It is kind of easy to, yeah, see, I mixed them up. Light mint macaron is actually this color. It's just going to be a slightly more bluish than the two seafoams. But they go together very nicely. You can work them in together. I've noticed that people are recommending using the Whisper White Heavy. I do not believe my working with those two papers, the 80 pound just can't handle the heavy saturation of the alcohol inks, and so I agree that if you're going to use Whisper White, do use the thick. You're going to be much happier with the thick. It'll be able to hold a heavier relayering if you're doing, see, because I did a couple of these multiple layers, and so you want to be able to have a paper that you can saturate really well. Now I'm going to show you the back here. This is an 80 pound paper that does hold the ink really well. It does do a little bit of bleeding, but not bad, and I also own it in the 110 pound. And you can see that it saturates to the back of the paper, and that is how this paper works, and that is not a problem. That does not mean there's something wrong. It really is, you want to look at it from the front, and I always color on a pad. This is just a regular pad of paper, so I always allow the pad so that the paper can saturate the ink all the way through if it needs to. There are even people who do projects and they will have the paper that goes all the way through to the other side if they really saturate, and they'll turn the page behind into a piece of art. So over here I wanted to do one. So I just did one where I used blends on blends with the darker blend going to the lighter blend, and now I wanted to go with you on another green. This is a green, Call Me Clover. And here it is here. It's very vibrant green. It's really lovely, and it just goes, I love the colors that I happen to own, which would be the light Call Me Clover to G05, G02, and then G000. If I had any of the other, like a G00 or G0, I don't know if those even exist here. I'll look on my sheet. Yep, you can go G02 to G00, then 000 and quad 0, which I only own the 000. And I won't bother with buying the ones around that one. So let me grab them. I'm going to put away. I'm working in a little cozy spot here to have the room for my bags as well as room to work, but also keep it close. So here's the 3 Copic markers, and I'm looking for Call Me Clover. Shaded spruce. I did this before yesterday. Shaded spruce to me looks like it would be, it's very close to Call Me Clover. Alright, so here we go. So we're starting with the dark on the bottom. Again, I'm using the fat end, and I'm just filling in the space. Not necessarily going heavy yet. Working in to get the blend. I like how that has blended. Now I move on to G05. See, and I think that that's just a nice one step lighter. G02. And then I don't have like a good interim step, so this is going to be a pretty big change. But see, if you work it, and I work in small circles, that is how I learned in Copic class, and that gives me what I would call a 5 blend step, and that's plenty for me. I probably wouldn't even need 5, but it's good to have. Now I've got my reference done. And if I'm coloring something that I need to go farther than the Call Me Clover Light and Dark, I have my references to the Copic colors that I would need. So I think that's all. I'm going to work on this sheet and build it up even more, and then I will get it posted. I hope you guys find this helpful. I know that it's always good to only use the Stampin' Up! Products, which would be great, but when their products aren't quite all built out yet and you need to extend further, it's nice to know what your options are out there to work with in the world. Thanks for watching.